Good morning, fifth graders. Today we are on page 253. 253. And it says up here that we're doing lesson 5, but what we're going to talk about today is going to go all the way through lesson 8. So we're going to use the same topic, and I know it's hard to see there, but lesson 5 through lesson 8. Okay, our objective today is, today I will multiply a decimal by a decimal using the standard algorithm. Okay, so let's look at that again. Today I will multiply a decimal by a decimal using the standard algorithm. So for the past few days, you've been practicing multiplying a decimal by a whole number. The difference today is it's going to be 2 decimals. Okay, just like we did before, ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to use the SWON strategies. So this lesson is to teach us how to do it using the area model, and we are not using the area model. They will also teach it using the distributive property, and we're not using that either. So just like we did before, we're only using the standard algorithm. Now here's the great news, ladies and gentlemen, is those notes that we took a while ago, all those notes that we took back here on page 227, remember we took all those steps? We're using the same steps. There's no new steps. So I'm going to put up here a little note, steps, page 227. So we don't need to write those 4 steps again. They're on page 227 if you don't know them. Okay, that'll save you a lot of time and me a lot of time. What we are going to do is kind of do some little shortcut steps though. So just the first step was, remember, set up problem. And we're not going to write everything down, but remember, when we set up the problem, we ignore the decimal, we don't line up the decimal, and we also make sure the longer number's on top. Step 2 is we just multiply. And when we multiply, we make sure that we ignore the decimal and just multiply regular. Step 3 was loops in problem. And step 4 was loops and decimal in product. Sorry, so that's our shortened steps. It's the same idea, I just didn't put as many words. So set up our problem, multiply, loops in the problem, and then loops and decimal in our product. Okay, I'm going to get started, ladies and gentlemen, on my problems. Here is my first problem. It says 1 2/10 times 1 4/10. Okay, 1 2/10 times 1 4/10. Okay, so step 1 says set up my problem. I remember when I set up my problem, I need to put the longer one on top. But when I look at these, they're both 2 digits. So one's not longer. So it doesn't really matter which one I put on top then. I'm just going to set them both up. Okay, uh-oh. I also remember from step 1, it says don't line up the decimal. But look at my decimals. Well, here's the deal, friends. I did not purposely line them up. They just lined up on their own. As long as I didn't do it on purpose, it doesn't matter if they're lined up. We just don't purposely line them up. So that's okay. So that's step 1. Step 2 says I'm going to multiply, and I'm just going to ignore the decimal. Okay, so ready? I have 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. Now this is double digits, so I need a placeholder. 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, and I get 8, 6, 1. Okay, so step 3 is loops in my problem. So I have 1 loop there and 1 loop here. So my problem has 2 loops. Okay, step 4 says loops and decimal in my product. So ready? 1, 2 loops, add my decimal, because they have to match the same number. So my answer is, or my product is 1 68/100. 1 68/100 is my product. Okay, let's look at another one of these. It says, every year Sophia grows about 3 3 inches. How much did she grow in the first 3 4/10 years of her life? Okay, so they want me to multiply 3 3/10 times 3 4/10. So just like before, they're both 2 digits. So when I set up the problem for step 1, not one factor is longer. So it doesn't matter which one goes on top. Okay, now also just like in the first problem, my decimals are lining themselves up. I didn't intentionally do that. What I intentionally did was just to line up the backs like you do when you set up multiplication problems. So it's okay if they line themselves up. Okay, step 2 says I'm going to multiply ignoring the decimals. So I'm just going to pretend the problem says 33 times 34 and just multiply. Ready? 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1 is 13. Notice I'm really keeping my digits lined up. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one, so I'm going to cross that off so I don't get confused. I'm going to add a placeholder. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so when we add these, I get 2. 3 plus 9 is 12. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 9 is 11. Okay, that was step 2. Step 3 is do my loops in my problem. 1 loop, 2 loops. And then step 4 is to do my loops and my decimal in my product. 1, 2, add a decimal. So 2 loops and 2 loops. So my product is 11 22/100 is my product. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's do some of these together. We are on page 254. 254. And just like before, we saw they wanted us to do it using this method, so they took up most of our space. So you're probably going to have to be creative with your space, or you can use a separate piece of paper. But my problem says 2 2/10 times 1 2/10. Now they're both 2 digit, so it doesn't matter which one goes on top. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Okay. Now that was step 1. And again, it's okay if they line themselves up. Step 2 is let's multiply regular. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, before we go on to this digit, we need a placeholder. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. And we're getting 4, 6, 2. Okay, so that was step 2. Step 3 is let's do our loops in our problem. Ready? 1, 2 loops. And step 4 is let's do our loops and decimal in our product. 1, 2, add my decimal. So our product is 2 64/100. Okay, let's look at another one. This time it's a word problem, but we're still not using this. So it says Carla needs 3 7 pounds of chicken. If each pound of chicken cost $4.50, how much will she need to spend? So we're multiplying 3 7/10 times 4 50/100. Okay, so this time there is one that's longer. This is longer. It has 3 digits, so this is our one that needs to be on top. 4 50/100 times 3 7/10. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stop and look at what happened here. My decimals did not line up, but look how nice my digits are lined up. So you might need a pause to make sure. I did not line up my decimals. What I wanted to make sure I lined up were my digits. Okay, as soon as yours looks like mine, make sure you're ready to go. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is we're going to multiply like regular. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 3 is 31. Okay, now we have a placeholder. I'm going to cross that off so I don't get confused. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Oh my goodness, friends. They really did not leave me room. Look how squished I am over there. Okay, we're going to have to be really careful because our work is really squished. Make sure yours looks like mine. 16650. Okay, so let's check our loops. Ready? 1, 2 loops, and 3 loops. This time our problem had 3 loops. So ready? We're going to come down here and go 1, 2, 3 loops and add a decimal. So our answer says 16.650. Now the only problem with my answer, ladies and gentlemen, is this is supposed to be money. And money only goes 2 place values after the decimal, because this is pennies go to the hundredth. So I would actually write this as $16.65. I wouldn't put that 0 on there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to be practicing this for a few days. Remember, whatever the directions tell you, you use the algorithm. You use the algorithm. Have a great day. Bye.